Great to have with us at halftime Chuck Taylor, a head men's basketball coach at Coastal Alabama North. Coach, how are you?
Wonderful. Good morning to you. How's everything?
Everything is good on this end as well. Let's talk about basketball there at Coastal Alabama North. I want to go back a year ago. 1 year ago, you advanced to the conference tournament as the one seed, did you not?
Yes, correct. That is correct.
So you come into this season with great anticipation and still season nowhere close to over. But I know you, and it hasn't quite been the season you had anticipated.
Right. Well, last year we had a very experienced team. We 15 guys, 12 of them was transfers, three freshmen. So, whereas this year I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum where we have 12, 12, 12 freshmen and two sophomores. So it's just it's what happens is you take that experience for granted until you don't have it anymore. My young men are working very hard. They're learning, the college game in regards from coming from high school to college, and there's a numerous jump from the high school game to the college game, just like there's a numerous jump from when they leave us and go on to their next destination. And the biggest thing is strength, experience, speed, and knowledge of the game. There's more things that you have to learn. Practices are different because probably 80 to 90% of the high schools across the country, you have probably one or two college players on each team. Now there are some teams that has more, but for the most part, I'm talking about as a majority, you have one or two college players. So now you get to college, everybody was the best player on their team. So, there's a learning curve, and especially the way that we do things defensively, offensively, it's not as open as it probably was in high school. So there's a big learning curve, but they're doing well. They're adjusting. We're still competing at a high level. And then, we play one of the toughest schedules in America. I mean, we don't, you've had an opportunity to broadcast some of the teams that we've had come to Monroeville, Alabama, and I don't even know if our town really understand the magnitude of the teams that I've had come here.
Well, as a matter of fact, most recently, the current number 14 team in the country, Chipola, at one point, I think it was Indian Hills, was 7 when you played them.
Yep. And
Is it a fair assessment?
Southwest Mississippi was in the top 25 at that time as well.
So a very tough schedule for Coastal North. Is it a fair assessment that your team can play with anybody? They proved it against the Indian Hills. They proved it against the Chipola. Indian Hills took them to the end of the ball game. Chipola, it was a halftime, I think, 2-point contest. So is it a fair assessment that if your team puts together 40 solid minutes, they can play with anybody in the country?
Well, the talent is definitely there. So we've proven that we can compete at that level. Again, where we're lacking is the experience, and how you get experience is you got to go through the trenches and go through the war. So always kind of relegated to you take the Michigan Wolverines. It took them 3 times to get to the CFP to finally get over that hump. The first year they really struggled against them. Well, and it's an unfair assessment because Georgia, the Philadelphia Eagles are Georgia. That year they won the title. And then the next year, they took a TCU team lightly. It was their second year in, and then boom, finally they were able to knock the doors in. And I think if we continue to grow and get better, I know that teams probably are not going to want to play us late in the season, because that's usually when our teams are playing their best ball. And if I'm able to, do a good thing and retain the guys that I have, the future is bright.
Is that difficult for you as a coach, though, to know that it is a transition? It is something that takes time, especially with the younger players. I watch you there on the sidelines, and there do seem to be moments of frustration on your part.
Yeah, well, there's moments of frustration because you know that you work on certain things, and there's things that you can you can handle and deal with, and then there's things that you work on time and time again, and they're still happening. Those are the frustrating parts of things. But then there's a lot of things that, give you an example. You take Mikey McIntosh, who's a transfer sophomore. Beginning of the year, he was about 20% from the free throw line. So, and he got there on a regularity. So, but we've worked on it, and now he's almost at 70. So those are the growth processes that you see. We turned the ball over at an enormous rate early in the year. Now we turn the ball over about 13, 14 times a game, which is probably right where we need to average. Well, we were at 25, 28. So, like teams presses, I don't worry about presses anymore. They finally got it figured out, the things that we need to do to press, to beat a press. So, yes, there's some frustrations when our rotations on our defense is not where it needs to be. There's some frustrations when we gamble, but that's just youth. And, just got to you just got to keep working and keep watching film and hopefully eventually they'll see what you see, because the way that I see basketball and the way I see it from the bench, they're sitting over there. They probably don't see it from that perspective. They see what they're supposed to do at their particular position, where I see the whole big picture of things. So there's some frustration, but then there's a lot of positives that go into it as well.
Do you see yourself as adjusting your style or your way of coaching or your approach to the ball game based on kids that are definitely different today than they were 10 years ago or 20 years ago? So do you see that you've got to sometimes adjust coaching, or do you see it more as the player needs to adjust their style?
Well, it's a little bit of both. And what I mean by that is obviously, the players are a little different because I think the raised different. I think our generation is different in regards to, when I grew up, it was you were raised tougher. And what I mean by that is, your next door neighbor, your neighbor 2 doors down, they had the right to correct you, and it wasn't going to be a big deal. That's what yes, ma'am, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and you corrected whatever behavior you were displaying at that time, and you move forward. Where you move 30, 40 years forward. Now, things have changed a lot in regards to that type of upbringing. It's not the same. Your neighborhoods have changed. They're more integrated than what they ever been before. And so, your goal has got to be, as long as you can show them that you care about them, and that gives you the opportunity to coach them. And I always make sure that I preference everything that this is never a personal attack on you or your character. Because I have great, the team I have great young men. I mean, very respectable, very well liked around campus, do well in school. I don't have any issues in that area. So I have to make sure that they understand, boom, I care for you. So, if there's ever an issue, me and my staff, we're going to be there. However, I am going to coach you, and coaching you and caring for you are 2 totally different things. Now, there's one thing, if I didn't care about you, then you would probably know that based off how my interactions would be with you. But I care about you. So therefore, that gives me the right to have that opportunity to coach you hard, because I want to get you better. And I know that that's the only way that you're going to be able to reach your ceiling. And this is told to them in the recruiting process as well.
You faced adversity during the course of the season, injuries. I know Chi Evans sat out about 7 games. Abdul Bayai sat out 3 or 4. You've had some recent injuries as well. And plus, coming out of the Christmas holidays, you lose your leading scorer unexpectedly. So how difficult has it been to overcome those adversities?
Well, the biggest difference is, last year, I don't think it would have been as big a blow because we were so deep and we had a bunch of experienced guys. We had guys that had been in college 1, 2 years, COVID sophomores. We just had, you take, Carl Parker, Jackson Kennedy, John Hart, um, um, Nate Brayton. Those guys were all older guys who have already had experienced college for 1 or 2 years. You take Carl, who had sat out a year, sat out 2 years actually, because he was, he went home for COVID, then he took another year off because he just wasn't mentally prepared to come back to school at that time. So they were a much older group, and their talent, not only were they talented, but they were older and more mature. So things were a lot easier to them because they had already experienced. Where you take a younger group and you lose, you lose Shea Evans for 7 games, you lose your point guard and Abdul Bayah for 4 games, and now you got freshmen, going into those roles, and it's a little difficult, but it's great for the freshmen because it gives them an opportunity to get out there and compete and get them to learn. So that I think the sky is definitely looking up for us, and I look forward to us finishing out the year strong and having an opportunity to make the conference tournament, and then because that's all you want to do is get to the conference tournament and see what happens from there. So yeah, we've had our trials and tribulations, but we got a good group, and we just got to keep working and keep fighting.
Here we are about midway through the season. So are the goals the same today as they were at the start of the year?
Well, I got this saying that I say, the standard is the standard. We don't change the standard. We don't change the expectations. The expectations is whatever opponent is in front of us, we have to go out to compete and give ourselves every opportunity to win the game. So give you an example. We went to Snead State. Snead's a very good school. Been traditionally done very well in our conference. They won our conference tournament a year ago, went on and represented us at the national tournament in Hutchinson, Kansas. We went up there, we fought tooth and nail, 2.3 seconds left in the game. They took the ball out on sideline towards our bench and, threw it in, one dribble, 35-footer, banks it in. As I told our young man after the game, we didn't even make it to the locker room. I gathered them up at half court and I said, hey, look, all I ask for you guys is to give us an opportunity to win. You gave us that opportunity. He made a one dribble contested 3-point shot, bank off the glass. It just wasn't our night. It wasn't in the cards for us to win this ball game. However, you gave us every opportunity to win that ball game. So, those are the learning moments where, you can't rant and rave because you did what you needed to do to go on a road in a tough, hostile environment, and you're up with 2.3. Now, you go back 3 weeks earlier, we did the same thing to a Southwest Mississippi team. The luck was in ours. We bring it in, boom. I don't think it was 35 feet. It might have been 25 feet, but we get a bank. It goes in. We win the game. So I told our guys after that game, I don't never be disappointed I don't get too high on the high or too low on the lows when you win at the buzzer, because if you do this long enough, you're going to be on both sides of it.
Coach, it is always great to talk with you, to watch Coastal North, some great basketball there in Monroeville. As a matter of fact, I encourage fans, they need to come out and watch these guys play some super basketball. And I, like you, anticipating great things by the end of the year. Thanks for being our guest at halftime.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you. And as you said, we want to get those stands packed as always.